At 17, my family moved 3 states away without saying a word to me. They left a note. You'll figure it out yourself. 11 years later, when I finally got on my feet without their help, they tried to come back into my life. I came home and saw a completely empty house and that note on the kitchen table. It was the cruelest thing I'd ever read. Just, you'll figure it out yourself. I didn't understand what my fault was. I thought they were just tired of pretending to care about me. But in reality, they never even tried. When I was 12, I baked a pie myself for my father's birthday, but he called it lumpy. At 14, I helped my sister with homework before exams, but she called me a know-it-all and slammed the door in my face. At 16, I gave my entire part-time earnings to my mom to help pay the bills. But when I reminded her later, she yelled at me, saying I was useless. I was always useful, but never loved. My parents and sister, my only family, packed up and left for another state without warning me. I found out from the apartment owner 5 days later. I had 5 days to move out because they terminated the lease early. I stayed with an acquaintance for 2 days before the options ran out. In the end, I slept in my car, which I bought with my last savings. I washed in a public pool in the mornings, ate canned food from a can for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I looked for jobs on computers in the public library and pretended everything was fine. Eventually, I was hired as a waitress in a cafe for the morning shift. The manager was strict but fair. She paid cash off the books until I got my documents. Once, she let me nap in the back room when I almost collapsed from exhaustion. I clawed my way through it all. I bought a SIM card for my phone, collected every receipt, watched free video tutorials on budgeting and planning. The first year was on the edge, but I endured. The turning point came when a regular customer at the cafe offered me a side job sorting documents in an office. They paid twice as much as at the cafe. I agreed. That job led to the next one, and another. I learned on the fly, arrived early, asked questions. By 21, I was freelancing full-time. By 24, I launched my consulting service. Just me, an old table, and a rented computer. By 26, I had 3 assistants, my own office, and clients from firms I'd only heard about before. And by 28, I became a real millionaire. Not for show on social media, but with actual savings, a pension fund, no debts, a paid-off apartment, and insurance I can afford. When I first saw the 7-figure sum on the bank screen, I burst into tears. Throughout those tough years, my family never reached out once. I saw my sister in social media recommendations once. She's married now, living in the state they moved to. I stared at the screen for a long time, wondering if she told her husband about me, if she said I ran away, or just stays silent. Sometimes I think it would be easier to hate them, but in reality, it's not hate. It's a broken heart. Now I go to a therapist because I want to stay whole. I made a list of people who helped me when they didn't have to. Colleagues, classmates, random people who showed me what real support means. Last week, my blog post about surviving estrangement from my family blew up online. It got 1 million views in 3 days, my inbox filled with messages of support, thanks, and stories from strangers who said I put their pain into words. And among them, one email stood out. Subject: You're still our daughter. From Mom, no apologies, just a paragraph about hearing my version and maybe we could talk. Then a message from my sister: We miss you, can we fix this? I stared at the screen for a long time before closing the computer. I sat with it and wondered if healing means looking back or moving forward. I didn't respond right away. I needed time to think. My therapist, Sarah, suggested waiting at least a week before any steps. Give yourself space for feelings, she said during the session. No rush to respond. So I did. I focused on work, went to the gym, had dinner with friends. Normal things. But those emails haunted me. I opened them, read them, closed them again. Mom's email seemed detached, formal, like to a distant acquaintance. My sister's was shorter, but somehow more sincere. I couldn't get them out of my head. After 9 days, I decided to reply to my sister first. Something simple. I wrote, "It's been 11 years. What changed?" And sent it before I could overthink. Her response came in half an hour. She said the blog opened her eyes to what they did. She claimed she was only 14 when they left, that she had no choice, that she always wondered where I was, that she searched for me online a few times but never dared to reach out, that seeing my success makes her proud. I didn't fully believe it. If she was so worried, why wait until I was publicly successful? I asked her exactly that. Her next email was more detailed. She admitted they had money problems, that their parents' business failed, that her husband is expecting a second child, that medical bills are piling up. My stomach dropped. There it was, the real thing. I didn't respond for another week. Then Mom sent a second email with attached old family photos, shots of me as a baby, us at the lake when I was 4 or 5, me and Sophia making sand figures, happy frames that seemed from someone else's life. At the bottom, she wrote, "We made mistakes. We want to make amends." I showed the emails to Sarah at the next session. She reminded me that I control the situation, can set conditions, owe them nothing, but also noted that closure could help move forward. Whether reconciliation or farewell, I nodded. But inside I was conflicted. Part of me wanted to tell them to go to hell. Another wanted to understand why they left me. And a tiny stupid part still wanted them to love me. I decided to meet my sister first. Just her, no parents. We arranged to meet at a cafe in Detroit, halfway between us. I flew in that morning, checked into a hotel, and tried to calm down. I almost canceled twice. But at 1 p.m. I walked into the cafe and saw her right away. She had aged, gained weight, with thinning hair, but her eyes were the same. She stood up when she noticed me. Awkwardly, uncertainly. I didn't hug her. We just sat across from each other with coffee, like strangers. The first 15 minutes were torturous. Small talk about the weather, my trip, her drive. Then she started apologizing. "Ava, forgive me," Sophia said, her voice cracking. "I was a child when it happened. I didn't know they planned to leave you until it was too late. I was too scared to stand up to them. I just listened, studying her face for lies. She seemed honest, but I'd been deceived before. I asked the question that had haunted me for 11 years. Why me? Why was I the one left behind?" She stared into her cup. "They always saw you as the strong one, the independent one, the one who could manage alone. They thought you didn't need them as much as I did. They convinced themselves you'd be better off without them." It was the most absurd thing I'd heard. I told her about sleeping in the car, eating canned food for weeks, washing in the pool, and shifts at 17. Her face crumpled. "I didn't know," she whispered. "They told me you had a plan, wanted to stay, live with friends, chose to leave us." All lies. By the end of the meeting, I didn't know what to think. She looked genuinely remorseful. She showed photos of her husband and son, told me about her accounting job, asked about my service, didn't ask for money directly, which surprised me. When we parted, she hugged me. I let her, but didn't hug back. I just stood there, feeling nothing. Back at the hotel, I called Sarah, laid it all out. She noted that while my sister seems guilty, she's still portraying herself as a victim, not acknowledging her role in my abandonment. She was right. She was 14, not 4, old enough to pick up the phone, write a letter, check on me over 11 years. That night, Mom called. I hadn't given her my number, so probably Sophia. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Her voice sounded older, hoarser. She cried at hello. She started talking about how proud she is of me. Always knew I'd succeed, how special I am. I let her talk it out, then asked her the same question as my sister. Why me? Her answer was different. "We were in debt. Ava, we couldn't feed 3. We knew you were smart enough to survive on your own. We thought you'd go to social services and get placed with a better family. We thought we were doing you a favor." I hung up, blocked the number immediately, threw the phone across the room, and screamed into a pillow. In the morning, an email from Dad arrived. First contact in 11 years, no apologies. Instead, about their hard life. Medical bills, business failures, about my sister's husband needing surgery, that they're being evicted. At the end, he asked if I could help the family. Not a single question about my life. No acknowledgement of what they did. I forwarded it to Sarah with the subject, "There it is." She called right away. Even though it was Sunday, we talked for an hour about boundaries, forgiveness versus reconciliation, helping versus enabling, about what I really want versus what I think I should. By Monday, I had decided. I emailed my sister, said I was glad we met, that I understand she was in a tough spot in her youth, that I'm open to a relationship with her and her family, but with clear rules. No money, no loans, no financial help of any kind, and no contact with our parents until they take full responsibility. Her response was quick and telling. "I'm really disappointed, Ava," she wrote. "Our parents need help. Families should support each other. You're being selfish with your success. All the guilt buttons they installed in me as a child were pressed at once. I didn't respond. Instead, I scheduled with Sarah and booked a vacation to Hawaii. I needed space to process. 2 days later, Sophia called, left a voicemail apologizing for the email, said she understands my position, still wants a relationship on my terms, respects boundaries. I listened twice, deciding if it was sincere or a tactic. I decided to give one more chance, but with caution, I went to Hawaii anyway, spent 10 days on the beach, walking trails, meditating. I needed the distance. When I returned, I had 5 emails from Dad, each more desperate than the last. I didn't read past the subjects. Also an SMS from my sister asking to talk again. I agreed to a call, nothing more. The call started okay. She apologized again for pushing. I've been thinking a lot about your words, she said. I'm going to therapy myself now. I believed it. She sounded different, less defensive. We talked about her child, my service, normal topics. Then she mentioned that our parents are coming to visit her over the weekend. Asked if I'd consider meeting them for at least half an hour in a public place. My chest tightened. I'm not ready, Sophia. She pushed a little but backed off when I went quiet. After the call, I dialed Sarah. We had an emergency session that evening. She helped me realize I was afraid of the meeting, not because I hate them, but because I still crave their approval, still want to be loved, still want to be enough. It was pathetic, but true. I cried for an hour in her office. The next day, my sister texted again. Said Mom cried all night after learning I wouldn't come. Said Dad is talking about driving to my city. Anyway, I panicked, blocked my sister's number immediately, called my assistant, said I'd be working remotely for a week, ordered groceries for delivery, basically hid in my apartment like a scared child. On Wednesday, the doorman called, said a couple is asking for me. No names. I knew right away. Said I'm not accepting visitors. For minutes later, a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Dad. Ava, we drove 7 hours to see you. You're acting like a child. We deserve a chance to explain. I deleted the message and turned off my phone. Thursday morning, I woke to pounding on the door, froze in bed, heart racing, looked through the peephole. Them, my parents in the hallway, as if they had the right. Ava, please, Mom's voice through the door. We just want to talk. We know you're in there, Dad added. We love you. We're sorry. I didn't open, sat on the floor with my back against the wall, shaking. Eventually, they left. I called building security right away, told them not to let those people up. The guard was concerned. Asked if I needed police. I said, no, just don't let them up. Then I called Sarah. She came over on her lunch break, brought a sandwich, sat with me while I cried, said I have every right to boundaries, don't owe them a meeting. What they're doing is harassment, not reconciliation. After she left, an email from my sister arrived. She was furious, said I humiliated our parents, said they're staying in a cheap motel they can't afford out of desperation to see me, said her husband needs surgery in a month and they hoped for my help, said I'm cruel. I didn't respond. Friday morning, I decided to leave town for a while, booked a flight to my friend Lydia in Seattle. She was one of those who helped me when I was homeless, let me stay with her for 5 days when I had nowhere. I trusted her completely. I was packing when the phone rang. Unknown number. Ignored it. 8 minutes later, the doorman called, said a woman downstairs looks ill, asking for me by name, says she's my mother. My head spun, told him to call an ambulance if needed, but I'm not. Coming down, he seemed awkward but agreed. I finished packing and left 50 minutes later, carefully checked the lobby. No sign of them. I felt relieved but strangely guilty. The doorman gave me a weird look, said the ambulance came. The woman complained of chest pain. They took her to Central Hospital. I nodded and hurried to the taxi. At the airport, a call from my sister. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Mom had a heart attack, she sobbed. In surgery, this is your fault, you stressed her out. I hung up, called Sarah. She answered right away. I told her, asked if I'm bad. Ava, listen, she said firmly. You're not responsible for your mother's health. This seems like another manipulation. Get on the plane and take care of yourself. I did. Spent the weekend with Lydia. Laid it all out. She remembered how my family abandoned me. Remembered how broken I was. She was furious on my behalf. They don't deserve a second of your time, she said, pouring more wine. Not after what they did. It felt good to have someone so firmly on my side. Sunday evening, an email from Dad. Mom is stable. They put in a stent. Discharged Wednesday. At the end, she's asking for you. Don't you think you've punished us enough? I showed Lydia. She rolled her eyes, said this is classic guilt tripping. I knew she was right, but part of me felt responsible. I flew home Monday, found flowers at my door, card. Please call. We're at the motel until Thursday. No apologies, no respect for boundaries, just a demand. I threw the flowers in the trash chute. Tuesday morning, an SMS from unknown. Photo of mom in a hospital bed, pale and small. Message, she might not have much time. Do you really want to live with such regret? I blocked it, called Sarah. She suggested a social media break. Number change, maybe stay with a friend. I agreed, called my assistant, said remote for 2 weeks. Family matters. She understood, rescheduled. I packed a bag. Before leaving, the doorman called, said a young woman downstairs asking for me. With a small child, says she's my sister-in-law. I felt trapped. These people wouldn't stop. Told him to let her up. Decided to face it head on. The woman who knocked looked exhausted, dark. Circles under her eyes, holding a sleeping toddler on her shoulder. I'm Mia, Sophia's wife, she said quietly. Came alone because I wanted to talk without family drama. I let her in reluctantly. Offered water. She accepted gratefully. Mia laid her sleeping daughter on the couch, tucked a blanket around her, then sat at the table and started talking. I learned about you 2 years ago, she admitted. Sophia said you ran away at 17, cut ties with the family. It always seemed strange to me, but I didn't push. Your blog was a shock. I confronted her, and she finally admitted the truth. I just listened, not sure what to believe anymore. Mia seemed sincere. I'm horrified by what they did to you, she continued. I insisted Sophia reach out, but I had no idea they'd ask for money. I'm embarrassed and angry about that. Yes, I need thyroid surgery, but we have insurance. Your parents are the ones in financial trouble, not us. I asked why she came. She looked me straight in the eyes. You deserve the whole truth. She said, your parents told everyone you abandoned the family, that you were unstable, that you stole money from them before disappearing, that they spent years looking for you. All lies to cover what they did. My breath caught. How do you know? She pulled out her phone, showed social media posts from years back. Mom asking for prayers for her lost, troubled daughter. Dad claiming I took their savings before running away. Posts about hiring detectives, checking shelters. All carefully crafted to make them look like victims. All dated years after they abandoned me. Mia apologized for being part of it. Even unknowingly, said she confronted the parents too. They admitted everything to her when she threatened to tell the whole family the truth. They're desperate now because their lies are unraveling. Your blog has people asking questions they can't answer. Her daughter woke up then, a cute girl with wavy hair. This is Ella, Mia said softly. She's 2. I have another on the way. I want my children to know their aunt. But only if you want that too. No pressure, no guilt. Just an open door if you ever choose to walk through it. After they left, I sat in my apartment for hours processing, called Sarah again, told her everything Mia said. She wasn't surprised. Abusers often control the narrative, she explained. They create alternate realities where they're the victims. She asked what I want to do now. I honestly didn't know. That night, another email from Dad. This one different. Angry, threatening. Said if I lie about them online, they'll sue for defamation. Said they have proof of theft. Said they'll go to the media with their side if I don't remove the blog and apologize publicly. Said they expect compensation for reputation damage. I forwarded it to Sarah, then to the lawyer, Dan. He called immediately. These are empty threats, he assured me. Truth is, a defense against defamation. Save everything. But don't respond. I'll handle it if they file, but I doubt they will. People who are going to sue don't usually announce it. The next day, a call from my sister. I let it go to voicemail. She sounded panicked. Ava, Mia told me she visited you. Our parents are furious. They're saying terrible things about her now too. I'm scared they'll do something desperate. Call me back on Mia's phone, not mine. I didn't know what to believe anymore. Called Dan again. He suggested meeting Sophia and Mia somewhere public with him present as my lawyer, just to hear them out. I agreed reluctantly. We set up a meeting at a restaurant near his office for the next day. They showed up on time. Both looked terrible, stressed. exhausted. Mia had a bruise on her arm. She kept trying to hide it. Sophia couldn't make eye contact. "I'm Dan, Ava's attorney," he said as we sat down, which made Sophia flinch, but we sat, ordered coffee, and they started talking. The story that came out was worse than I'd imagined. My parents had been living off Sophia for years, moving in and out of her house, taking money for emergencies, babysitting her kid while criticizing their parenting. When Mia confronted them about me, Dad grabbed her arm hard enough to leave marks. Sophia kicked them out. They're now in a motel, calling constantly. Showing up at her work, I listened without interrupting, watched my sister break down as she described how our parents controlled her entire life, how they convinced her I abandoned them, how she'd been too scared to question their version, how she'd been trapped in their web of manipulation and lies for 11 years, how she was terrified they'd hurt Mia or the kid. Dan asked careful questions about financial ties, house titles, bank accounts, whether my parents had keys. Sophia answered everything. Said they co-signed her mortgage, said Dad was still on her bank account from college, said they had spare keys, said they knew all her passwords. Dan took notes, occasionally glancing at me. By the end of the meeting, I felt drained but clearer. This wasn't just about me anymore. Sophia and Mia were victims too, in their own way, different from me, but still trapped. Dan suggested they speak to their own lawyer, gave them a colleague's card, told them to change locks, passwords, and accounts immediately. They nodded, looking overwhelmed but grateful. As we left, Sophia hugged me. This time, I hugged back. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was something, a recognition that we'd both been damaged by the same people, that maybe we could help each other heal. That night, a series of increasingly unhinged texts from my parents' numbers. Accusations, threats, guilt trips. I blocked them all. Then I called Mia, asked if they were safe. She said yes, changed the locks, stayed with friends last night. Looking into a restraining order, I felt relieved but still worried. The next morning, I woke to my phone ringing. It was Mia, hysterical. "They broke into our house," she sobbed. "Took Ella's photos, important documents, Sophia's laptop, left a note. Family matters stay in the family." I told her to call the police immediately. Said I'd meet them at their house. Called Dan on the way. When I arrived, a police car was outside. An officer was taking statements in the living room. The place was a mess. Drawers pulled out, papers scattered. Sophia sat on the couch, head in hands. Mia was pointing out missing items to the officer. I introduced myself as family here to help. The officer was skeptical that grandparents would break in. Sure it wasn't a key? Maybe a misunderstanding. Mia showed her bruised arm, told about the escalating behavior, threats, stalking. He took notes but didn't seem convinced, said without evidence it'd be hard to prove. After the police left, we cleaned up together, found more missing things. Albums, financial documents, spare car key. Sophia looked defeated. "This is my fault," she said. "I should have protected my family better, should have stood up to them years ago, should have looked for you harder." I didn't disagree, but didn't pile on either. We were beyond that now. Dan arrived as we finished, looked around grimly, said this changes things. Breaking and entering is a serious crime. We need to document everything. Everyone should stay elsewhere for a few days. He'll file for emergency restraining orders in the morning. We nodded, too exhausted to argue. Mia packed bags while Sophia and I secured the house as best we could. Changed locks again, checked windows, discussed security cameras. It felt surreal, taking precautions against our own parents. But necessary. They'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. As we left, Sophia got a text from Dad. Just 3 words. "We're watching." She showed me, hands shaking. I took a screenshot, sent it to Dan. Then I decided. They're coming to stay with me. My building has security, cameras, a doorman who already knows not to let our parents in. They accepted gratefully. That night, the 4 of us ate takeout in my living room. Ella played with toys Mia packed. We talked quietly about next steps. Orders, police reports, changing numbers and emails, possibly moving to a new house, how to protect long-term. It wasn't the family reunion I'd imagined. Sitting with the sister who'd let me be abandoned, her wife who'd believed lies about me, and their daughter who was innocent in all this. But somehow it felt right, like we were finally facing the truth together, like maybe we could build something new from the ashes our parents destroyed. The next morning, Dan called. Said he'd filed emergency orders for all of us. Need to appear in court next week to make them permanent. Also reported the break-in to a detective he knows who's taking it more seriously than the responding officers. Said we should all stay together until resolved. I agreed. Called my assistant. Said working from home indefinitely. Family emergency. She understood. Rearranged. Set up a workspace in the guest room for Sophia, who also needed remote work. Mia and Ella took over the living room, building pillow forts and watching cartoons. It was strange having people in my space. I'd lived alone for years, like my quiet routines, clean counters, empty sink. But there was something comforting about the noise too, about Ella's laughter, Mia's quiet humming while folding laundry, Sophia's typing from the other room. It felt like family, not the one that abandoned me, but maybe the one we could become. That afternoon, the doorman called, said flower delivery. I told him to check the card before sending up. He read it. We know where you all are. This isn't over. I told him to refuse. Call police if they won't take it back. Then called Dan. He said add it to the case file. It strengthens our request for orders. We're doing everything right. I didn't tell Sophia or Mia about the flowers. They were stressed enough. Instead, I ordered extra groceries, made dinner for everyone, played with Ella, tried to create some normality in this bizarre situation. But that night, after everyone was asleep, I sat alone in my kitchen and finally let myself feel everything. The fear, the anger, the grief, the strange hope. I cried silently into a dish towel so no one would hear. In the morning, Mia found me making coffee, asked if I was okay. I lied, said yes. She didn't believe me, sat at the counter. It's okay not to be okay, Ava, she said gently. I'm not either. Sophia cries in the shower where she thinks no one can hear. Ella keeps asking when we can go home. This whole situation is terrible, but I'm grateful we're facing it together. I looked at her, this woman I barely knew who was somehow now part of my life. Asked why she'd come to me that first day, why she'd chosen to believe me over the family she'd known for years. She smiled sadly. I've always felt something was off about your parents, about the stories they told, about how they controlled Sophia. The blog confirmed my suspicions. I couldn't let my daughters grow up thinking abandoning a child was ever acceptable. We hugged then for the first time. Awkward but genuine. Like the beginning of something. Not friendship exactly. Not yet. But understanding, solidarity, a shared determination to break the cycle of abuse that had damaged us all. The next few days fell into a routine. Work, cooking, playing with Ella, check-ins with Dan, jumping at unexpected noises, flinching when phones rang. Living in a strange limbo of domestic normality and underlying tension. We were safe, but not at peace. Together but still healing. Family, but still learning what that meant. On Friday, Dan called with news. The detective found evidence. Video from a store camera near Sophia's house showed our parents' car there during the break-in. The order hearing is Monday. He's confident we'll get approved. We all felt relieved, but still anxious, waiting for the next escalation. It came that night. A brick through Sophia's car window in the garage. No note this time. No need. The message was clear, building security. Footage showed a man in a cap, face turned away from cameras. We couldn't prove it was Dad, but we knew. Filed another police report. Added to our case file. Tried not to let Ella see how scared we were. Sunday night. We sat together planning for court. What to wear, say, evidence to bring, how to explain our family history without sounding crazy, how to make the judge understand the escalation pattern, how to protect ourselves legally and physically. It felt unreal discussing our parents this way, like talking about dangerous strangers who happen to share our DNA. As we talked, my email pinged from Mom. Subject, last chance. Almost deleted unread, but opened it. Short, one line. If you go to court tomorrow, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I showed Dan, who'd stayed for dinner. He screenshotted, added to the file, told me not to respond, said this kind of threat would only help our case. That night, none of us slept well. I kept checking locks, listening for noises, wondering what my parents might do next, wondering if we were overreacting, underreacting, how my life had come to this. From abandoned teen to successful entrepreneur to hiding in my apartment from the people who gave me life. Monday morning arrived with a strange calm. We dressed carefully, business casual, respectable, trustworthy. Mia arranged a friend for Ella, We drove to the courthouse in separate cars just in case. Met Dan on the steps. He looked confident, briefcase in hand. Said he'd handled dozens like this. Evidence is strong. Judges take threats seriously. We'd be protected. As we walked into the courthouse, I spotted them. My parents near the entrance, older than I remembered, somehow smaller. Mom saw me first, moved toward me. Dad grabbed her arm, held her back. They watched us pass, didn't speak, didn't approach, just stared with a mix of anger and something else, maybe fear. We filed past into the building, checked in at security, followed Dan to the courtroom, sat on a bench waiting for our case. I could feel my parents enter behind us, sense them on the opposite side, hear their whispered conversation, but I didn't turn, kept eyes forward, focused on breathing. The judge called our case. We stood, approached, took places. Dan presented evidence calmly. Break-in, threatening texts, flowers, brick, email, history of abandonment and manipulation. The judge listened carefully, asked clarifying questions, looked at our parents with increasing concern. When it was their turn, my parents approached. No lawyer, just them. Dad spoke first, claimed we were exaggerating. They just want to reconnect with family. Never broke laws, love us, and want to amend. All a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. The judge asked about the footage, threats. Dad denied. Said not them on video. Text misinterpreted. They're the victims, not us. Mom nodded, occasionally dabbing eyes with a tissue. Then the judge asked directly about abandoning me at 17. Dad hesitated, talked about troubled teens, tough decisions, doing what they thought best. The judge cut him off, asked again, did you leave your minor daughter alone and move to another state? Dad looked down, mumbled about financial hardship. The judge's expression hardened. After both sides, the judge granted our orders. 3 years, no contact, no approaching homes or workplaces, no messages through third parties. Violation would mean immediate arrest. My parents looked stunned, like they couldn't believe it, like they'd never faced consequences before. As we left the courtroom, Mom called my name just once, softly. I kept walking, didn't look back, felt a weight lifting with each step. Not healing, not yet, but the start of it. The first real boundary that couldn't be crossed without serious consequences. Outside, Dan shook our hands, said we did well. Orders are solid. Call him immediately if violations. Said he's proud of us for standing up. We thanked him, feeling dazed but relieved, like survivors of a disaster. Blinking in the sunlight, Sophia hugged me on the courthouse steps. A real hug this time. Sorry, Ava, her voice breaking. For everything, for not protecting you then, not finding you sooner, believing their lies, bringing this chaos back into your life. I hugged back, told her we'd be okay. We have each other now. We can build something new, something better. As we walked to our cars, my phone buzzed. A text from unknown. Almost didn't check, but did. A chill ran through me. Photo of Ella at her friend's house playing in the backyard, unaware she's being watched. Below, just 4 words. This isn't over yet. I showed Sophia immediately. Her face went white. She called Mia, already on her way to pick up Ella. I said meet at my apartment, then called Dan from the car, hands shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. He told me to forward the text and drive straight home. Said he'd call police and meet us there. Said this is a clear order violation. The drive felt eternal. I kept checking mirrors, paranoid our parents were following. When I pulled into the garage, I sat in the car a minute, breathing, pulling myself together before facing Sophia and Mia. They needed me strong now. I found them already in the apartment. Mia clutching Ella like she might vanish. The poor kid looked confused and scared. Sophia pacing, running hands through her hair. I showed the text. Mia started crying. Said they'd been watching her baby. She'd never forgive herself if something happened. Sophia wrapped her arms around them both, looking more determined than ever. Dan arrived 15 minutes later with 2 officers. They took statements, looked at the text, made calls, said they'd send a patrol to the friend's house to check. Said they'd try to trace the number. Said they'd increase patrols around the building. All the right things, but I could tell they didn't fully grasp how dangerous my parents could be, how unpredictable, desperate. After police left, we sat in the living room figuring next steps. Mia suggested a hotel under different names. Sophia thought drive to her cousin a few states away. I just sat there getting angrier. This is nonsense. We'd done everything right, followed legal channels, got orders, and they're still terrorizing us, controlling our lives through fear. I stood up suddenly. Enough running, I said. Enough hiding. Enough letting them dictate how I live. They stole my childhood. I won't give them my adulthood. Sophia looked at me like I was crazy. What are you planning? I honestly didn't know yet, but knew we couldn't live like this. That night, we took turns keeping watch while others slept. I took first shift, sitting by the living room window with lights off, watching the street. Around 1 a.m., I spotted a familiar car, Dad's old sedan. It circled the block twice before parking across the street. I took pictures, woke Sophia. We watched as Dad sat in his car, just staring up at the building, not approaching, not violating the order technically, just letting us know he's there, watching, waiting. In the morning, I sent the photos to Dan. He said concerning, but not a violation since he stayed in the car, away from the building, said to keep documenting, said he'd talk to the detective. I hung up frustrated. The system has limits. Orders are just paper. They won't stop someone determined to harm. Sophia and Mia decided to take Ella to a hotel for a few days, one with interior corridors and good security. I helped pack, hugged goodbye, promised to check in every few hours. After they left, I sat in my empty apartment feeling strangely calm, like I'd reached a decision point, like I couldn't stay in this limbo. Called Sarah, told her everything, asked what she thought I should do. She was quiet a minute, then asked a question that hit hard. What do you actually want from your parents? Not what you don't want, not what you're afraid of, but what you actively want. I realized I'd never thought of it that way. After we hung up, I made a list, what I want. 1. To live without fear. 2. A relationship with my sister and her family. 3. To stop feeling responsible for my parents' actions. 4. Freedom from the past. Nowhere on that list was reconciliation with my parents. No forgiveness. No understanding why they did it. Just freedom from them. That afternoon, I did something crazy. Emailed my parents, short message. I know you're watching my building. I know you won't stop. So let's talk one last time. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock, cafe on 5th Street. Just me, no police, no lawyers. After that, leave us all alone forever. Sent before I could change my mind. Didn't tell Sophia or Mia. Didn't tell Dan or Sarah. This was something I needed to do myself. For myself, I wasn't naive enough to think my parents would suddenly become reasonable, but I needed to face them on my terms, needed to say my piece, needed to end this cycle once and for all. Dad replied in seconds. We'll be there. No threats, no guilt, just confirmation. Spent the rest of the day preparing, not physically, mentally, thinking what to say, what they need to hear, what boundaries to set. Slept surprisingly well, like the decision lifted some weight. Next morning, dressed carefully, not to impress them, to feel strong, confident, took a taxi to the cafe, arrived 10 minutes early, chose a back corner table where I could see the door but wasn't visible from outside, ordered tea I didn't want, just waited. Surprisingly calm. They arrived exactly at 11, looking older than in court, more tired. Mom spotted me first, nudged Dad. They walked over slowly like approaching a wild animal that might bolt, sat across without speaking. We just looked at each other a long moment. These strangers who are my parents, people who shaped me in ways they'll never understand. I spoke first. I didn't call this meeting to reconcile or give money or hear excuses. I called it so you'd understand one thing. It's over. You've lost. Not just the court case. You've lost me, Sophia, your grandchildren, any chance at our lives. And if you can't accept that, if you keep stalking, threatening, forcing your way back, I'll destroy you. Dad tried to interrupt. I raised my hand. Not finished. Then pulled out my phone, showed screenshots of all threats, Ella's photo, emails. I've sent copies to everyone in your lives. Siblings, church, neighbors, employers, everyone. Not yet, but I will if you contact any of us again. If you come near our homes, if you so much as mention our names to anyone we know. Mom started crying. We want our family back. We made mistakes, but deserve another chance. We're getting older, don't want to die alone. I looked at her a long moment. You should have thought about that before abandoning your 17-year-old daughter, before lying to everyone about what happened, breaking into Sophia's house, threatening your own granddaughter. Dad got angry. You're ungrateful, always been difficult, turned your sister against us. You owe us for raising you. I just laughed, right in his face. Do you really think you're entitled to gratitude for the bare minimum parenting for 17 years before abandoning me completely? Do you think your parenting was so stellar I should thank you? He had no answer, just sat red-faced and silent. Mom was still crying, but I felt nothing. No guilt, no sympathy, just cold clarity that these people would never change, never take responsibility, never be the parents I deserved. I stood to leave. Last warning, next order violation, not just police. I'll make sure everyone you know understands exactly what kind of people you are. I have the resources to make your lives very difficult if you force me. As I walked away, Mom called. Do you really hate us that much? I stopped, turned. I don't hate you. I feel nothing for you. You're strangers to me now, and that's your loss, not mine. I walked out of that cafe feeling lighter than in years, called Sophia from the sidewalk, told her everything. She was upset at first that I met alone, then worried about retaliation, but mostly relieved someone finally stood up directly, said she wishes she'd had the courage years ago. I went back to my apartment, packed a bag, decided to join Sophia and family at their hotel for a few days just to be safe. When I got there, Ella ran to hug me. Aunt Ava, she called for the first time. I almost cried. Mia hugged too, said she's proud of me. Hopes I'll find peace. Sophia just squeezed my shoulder. No words needed. We spent the next few days in a weird limbo, waiting for my parents' next move, checking phones constantly, jumping at noises, but nothing happened. No calls, texts, emails, car sightings, just silence. After a week, Sophia and Mia decided to go home, changed locks again, installed cameras, planned to sell the house, looked at places closer to my city. I went back to my apartment too, back to work, to something like normal life. 2 weeks passed. Then a month, nothing from parents. Dan checked in regularly, said the detective confirmed they'd returned to their state. Orders in effect, said stay vigilant, but move forward. Slowly we did. Sophia found a job in my city. Mia enrolled Ella in preschool. They bought a house 15 minutes from my apartment. We had dinner together every Saturday. Built new traditions, new memories, a new kind of family based on choice, not obligation. I kept expecting to feel something about my parents, grief maybe, or guilt, or anger, but mostly relief, like I'd finally set down a heavy burden from age 17, like I could focus on the future, not the past. 5 months after the cafe confrontation, a letter arrived via Dan to keep my address private, from Mom. Almost didn't open, almost threw away, but curiosity won. Short, a couple paragraphs, no excuses this time, no demands. Just acknowledgement that they'd hurt me deeply. Failed as parents. Understand why I want nothing to do with them. Are getting counseling. Will respect the orders. Hope someday I might hear a proper apology. But understand if that day never comes. I showed Sophia. She got a similar one. We talked about it over dinner.